It was supposed to be a normal press conference, lights, cameras, and the usual pre-fight hype. But the atmosphere changed the moment the UFC heavyweight champion walked onto the stage. Sunglasses on, jaw tight, and ego peaking, he didn't sit, he threw himself into the chair like he owned the sport, the room, and everyone in it. JakePaul was already seated, calm and collected. No flashy attitude, no forced confidence, just the silent stare that told the world he was here for business. Reporters leaned forward, waiting for the verbal explosion everyone expected. And it came faster than anyone thought. The champion turned his mic on, smirked, and said loud enough for the back row to hear. "I still don't get it. Why am I fighting a YouTube kid? This isn't a charity match." Laughter erupted across the room, forced, nervous, and mocking. Jake didn't move. Didn't blink. The champion leaned forward again, voice dripping with superiority. "Listen, Jake. I end fights. I don't entertain them. First round. 2 minutes. You'll be asleep before the crowd sits down." Even the reporters paused. Not because the trash talk was shocking, but because it was too personal. Jake finally lifted his eyes and met the champion's stare. No anger. No shake in his voice. Just 5 calm words. "We'll see in the ring." That single sentence shifted the energy instantly. The room fell silent, cameras zoomed in, and suddenly the champion didn't look as comfortable as before. He forced a laugh to save face. "Sure, kid. Sure. Just don't cry afterward." Jake stood up to leave. No mic drop, no dramatic exit. Just controlled confidence, the kind that rattles louder than any insult ever could. Reporters watched him go, confused. Why wasn't he responding? Why wasn't he defending himself? Because he didn't need to. The crowd had come expecting a war of words, but Jake brought something far more dangerous, composure. And for the first time, the champion realized he might have miscalculated. Confidence is power, but overconfidence is suicide. As Jake walked backstage, a whisper echoed across the arena. "He's not joking. Round 1 might not go how the champion thinks." No one knew it yet, but in just 1 round, the entire world was about to witness the loudest apology ever made without words. The press conference ended, but the storm didn't. Within minutes, social media exploded. Clips of the champion mocking Jake circulated everywhere. Headlines rolled in. UFC monster promises round 1 execution. JakePaul called a joke, again champion laughs off fight. This isn't YouTube. People weren't just talking, they were taking sides, and loudly. The champion's fanbase was celebrating like victory was guaranteed. Jake's supporters, quieter but confident, simply said, "We've seen this movie before." Meanwhile, Jake entered the locker hallway with his small team. No cameras allowed. No chaos. Just his coach, his brother, and a gym bag filled with the only thing that mattered: tape, gloves, and discipline. His coach spoke first, voice low but sharp. "You did well. Let him talk." He set the stage with his mouth. "You'll finish it with your hands." Jake nodded. He didn't need pep speeches. He'd heard them when he was nobody, when crowds booed him, when boxers laughed at him, when arenas thought his name belonged to trending pranks rather than championship cards. He had built his respect punch by punch, round by round, not tweet by tweet. The next morning, weigh-in day arrived. The arena lobby was packed before the sun even climbed the sky. Security pushed back barriers as fans screamed for autographs and photos. 2 worlds collided in that crowd, UFC purists and JakePaul superfans, each convinced the other didn't understand combat. The champion entered first, huge, tattooed arms stretched, grinning from ear to ear. He didn't walk, he paraded, soaking in the noise like oxygen. Every cheer fed his arrogance. Then came Jake. No sunglasses. No gold chains. No entourage acting like royalty. Just a fighter, in sweats, eyes forward, breathing steady. The champion instantly pushed forward, bumping Jake with his shoulder, not accidental, not subtle. "Oops," he said, grinning. "Guess I didn't see the YouTuber." Jake didn't react. Not even a head tilt. He stepped on the scale, weight perfectly cut, body lean, jaw set. Camera flashes filled the air like static electricity waiting to ignite. They faced off. Nose to nose. Breath to breath. Ego versus silence. The champion sneered. "Enjoy tonight. Tomorrow is nightmare time." Jake finally spoke, a whisper only microphones could catch. "Tomorrow is lesson time." That line hit like a punch. Reporters stopped typing. Fans went speechless. Because confidence speaks, but conviction whispers. The commissioner separated them, but the tension didn't leave the room. It followed everyone outside, into taxis, into feeds, into late-night talk debates. Was Jake ready? Was the champion too comfortable? Had overconfidence ever been this loud? That evening, the champion posted videos laughing with friends, drinking, flexing for live streams. "I swear I'll finish this clown in 2 minutes. Mark my words." His fans spammed the comments with fire emojis, celebration emojis, coffin emojis. Meanwhile, Jake was somewhere quiet, inside a gym lit only by ring lights and sweat reflections on canvas. His gloves hit pads with controlled rhythm, not fury. His breathing steady, not strained. Every drill, every slip, every counter was being sharpened for one moment. Because Jake didn't need to knock him out. He needed to humiliate ego. Coach tapped his shoulder between rounds of drilling. "Listen. He's bigger. Stronger. More decorated. That's fine." Jake nodded, waiting. "But he isn't careful. And a fighter who doesn't respect danger, becomes it." Jake's eyes lifted, steady as stone. "He thinks my story started on YouTube," Jake said calmly. "But it started the day everyone decided I would fail." Coach smirked, hand on his shoulder. "Then tomorrow, don't prove him wrong, remind him why he should have stayed quiet." Fight night arrived. The stadium lights dimmed, entrance smoke filled the stage, and walkout music vibrated through the crowd. Celebrities, reporters, fighters, all sat leaning forward as if history had reserved front row seating. The champion walked in first, roaring, pounding his chest, screaming promises of destruction. His energy was fire, but uncontrolled fire burns its owner first. Jake walked out second, head lowered, gloves tight, calm like a surgeon entering an operating room, not a war zone. No theatrics. No speeches. Just a quiet killer's focus. The bell rang. A moment of silence spread across the arena. Not fear. Not excitement. Expectation. Everyone thought they knew what would happen. They were wrong. In exactly one round, every meme, every insult, every laugh, would turn into the loudest regret ever witnessed inside a ring. The bell echoed like a warning siren, not a starting signal. Round 1. 2 men. 1 ring. 1 ego too large, and 1 fighter too prepared. The champion exploded forward immediately, like a bull released from a gate, fists swinging with reckless pride. He didn't wait, didn't measure distance, didn't calculate anything. He just charged because, in his mind, this wasn't a fight, it was a public execution. Jake didn't move. He didn't flinch, didn't panic, didn't raise his guard in fear. He simply watched. Feet planted. Hands light. Eyes reading every predictable motion, the champion barked. "Stand still, YouTuber." Jake was standing still, and that terrified the champion more than any punch ever could. The first swing came wild, a heavy right cross loaded with too much power and zero control. Jake leaned just enough for the glove to cut air. Not panic. Not retreat. Just a slip, smooth, surgical. The crowd roared. Analysts gasped. Commentators leaned toward their screens. Wait. Jake isn't backing up. He's studying him. The champion clenched his jaw, embarrassed by the miss. He threw another one, harder, faster, angrier. Jake ducked under it, pivoted, and the champion stumbled past him, balance shattered. Jake didn't attack yet. He let him recover. That's what rattled everyone. He wasn't surviving the round. He was owning it. The champion shout laughed. Don't run. Fight. Jake finally spoke, breath steady, tone calm. You're punching the air, not me. Gasps rippled through the arena. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a diagnosis. A surgeon telling a patient where the infection lives. The champion charged again, pride burning hotter than stamina. Hooks, jabs, body shots, none landing, all bouncing off footwork, timing, angles too clean for someone he thought was just a content creator. Jake slipped a jab and snapped a sharp counter to the mouth. Not a knockout punch, just a reminder. A reminder that hurt more than power. You misjudged the wrong man. The champion staggered back, eyes wide. The arrogance began to leak from his face like air from a punctured tire. Crowd momentum shifted like a tide turning against a sinking ship. Cheers weren't for the champion anymore. They were for the silent storm in front of him. Jake advanced now, calm steps, chin tucked, gloves collected, eyes cold. The champion lifted his guard finally, realizing this was not the script he'd rehearsed. He threw a jab. Jake parried. He threw another. Jake slipped. He lunged. Jake pivoted. It was a dance, and only one of them knew the choreography. Jake tapped him again, a clean jab straight to the nose. Blood dotted the canvas. The champion wiped it, stunned. He had never tasted panic from a man he mocked. Jake whispered, almost kindly. It's just beginning. The champion growled and threw another wild hook, pride's final swing. But Jake saw it coming before it left the shoulder. He leaned, set his stance, and struck. A left counter. Precise. Violent. Beautiful. The champion's head snapped back, knees buckled, and the arena detonated with noise. Not cheers, not boos, shock. He didn't go down. But he stepped back. For the first time in years, the king of the cage retreated. If you were in Jake's place, would you stay calm or explode with anger? Comment below. Calm like Jake. Or fight back with EGO. Because in moments like these, control is the deadliest weapon. The champion blinked rapidly, trying to shake the dizziness. His corner yelled commands, but panic blocks instruction. Jake's corner said nothing. Because silence is the voice of confidence. Jake circled him, eyes studying, calculating, waiting, timing. Commentators could barely keep up. This isn't luck, this is skill. This is discipline. The champion roared and charged, swinging everything in his body at Jake's jaw. Jake stepped back a single inch, just enough, and landed a straight right counter that slapped sweat into the lights. Arena, stunned. Champion, broken posture, broken pride. He backed up, breathing heavy. Jake walked forward, not fast, not aggressive, just inevitable. Because some fighters attack, while others simply arrive. The bell finally rang. The round ended. But the humiliation had just begun. Jake turned and walked to his corner without celebration, without reaction. The champion slumped onto his stool, hands shaking, face red with disbelief more than pain. Fans, commentators, social media, everyone saw the same truth. This wasn't a YouTuber versus a fighter anymore. This was a fighter versus a man blinded by his own legend. He promised to finish Jake in 2 minutes. But 2 minutes into round 1. It wasn't Jake who needed saving. It was the champion. And round 2 would decide if he survived humiliation or drowned in it. The champion sat on the stool, breathing in broken rhythm, short, panicked, uneven. His corner men hovered over him, shouting instructions, fanning him, trying to rebuild a confidence that had cracked in front of millions. One coach slapped his gloves together. "Stop swinging like an animal. He's reading you." But the champion didn't hear tactics, he heard humiliation. JakePaul. The influencer. The YouTube kid. The one he promised to put to sleep within 2 minutes. Had just made him look like a beginner. Across the ring, Jake sat calmly, elbows resting on his knees, eyes locked on the floor. No heavy breathing, no bruises, no panic. His heartbeat wasn't fighting him, it was pacing him. His coach leaned in. "You've broken his confidence. Now break his plan." Jake nodded once, no words needed. The bell rang again. This time, the champion didn't charge. He walked, slow, defensive, suddenly human, suddenly aware of consequences. He raised his guard high, something he hadn't bothered with in round 1. Commentators immediately picked up the shift. He thought Jake would crumble, but he's the one scrambling. Jake stepped in, patient, deliberate. He wasn't hunting, he was dissecting. The champion shot a jab, but not the confident one from minutes ago. This one shook, hesitated, second-guessed. Jake parried it, not aggressively, but almost gently, like a teacher correcting a student. Then, a clean counter to the ribs. Not knockout power, reality power. The champion winced, eyes wide, and Jake moved out of range before retaliation even formed. His footwork wasn't flashy. It was intelligent. Calculated. Mature. Every analyst watching saw it. This wasn't luck. This wasn't hype. This was boxing IQ. The crowd felt the shift too. Cheers turned into stunned silence. Silence into awe. Jake wasn't winning because he was stronger. He was winning because he knew who he was. And the champion? He only knew who he thought he was. The champion tried to reset, bouncing lightly on his heels, shaking off the shame. He forced a smirk at Jake. "You got lucky in round 1. Jake didn't respond. He simply tilted his head slightly, gloves up, eyes unreadable. That silence? It hit harder than any punch. Because trash talk only works on someone trying to prove themselves. Jake had already proven everything. The champion lunged again, a desperate combination fueled by fear, not skill. Jake slipped left, ducked under the hook, and fired a short, tight uppercut. The champion's head popped back, knees softening. Crowd reaction was instant and explosive. "Oh!" He stumbled but didn't fall. Pride held him up, not strength. Jake stepped forward now, pressure without chaos, aggression without ego. He touched the champion with jabs, not to hurt him, but to expose him. Each shot reminded the world. This isn't hype. This isn't social media. This is a professional fighter. The champion tried to roar through the pain, swinging again, and Jake slipped once more. Time slowed. Cameras zoomed. Jake's glove lifted just enough, a soft feint, and the champion flinched so hard he nearly tripped himself. Commentators couldn't hold back. He's not just losing, he's panicking. Public reality check. They circled, sweat flicking from gloves, lights burning down. And then, whispers began in the crowd. Not about Jake. About the champion. He's overrated. He underestimated him. Jake is playing chess, and he came in for arm wrestling. Those whispers travel fast in a stadium. Faster than punches. Faster than ego can recover. The champion heard them too. And that, more than any combination thrown at him, broke his spirit. He roared and threw a desperate overhand, sloppy, wild, furious, and Jake caught him clean with a counter so precise the champion froze mid-swing. Silence. Then eruption. The champion backed up, eyes glassy, footwork scrambled. He wasn't fighting Jake anymore. He was fighting embarrassment. The bell saved him. He turned, wobbling, breath sharp, chest rising too fast for a man only 6 minutes in. "Jake?" He walked back, quiet, composed, breathing like a man who just finished a warm-up. He sat. Closed his eyes. Exhaled. The champion collapsed into his chair, head down, gloves trembling against his thighs. His coach said it softly now, panic gone, replaced with realism. "Forget the knockout. Just survive." The same man who called Jake a joke was now praying for the bell to save him. He entered the ring a king. But in just 6 minutes, the crown was slipping. Because the worst defeat isn't on the canvas. It's when the world sees you break before you fall. And in round 3, the world wouldn't just watch him fight. They would watch him face what ego refuses to admit. The room was no longer loud, no longer chaotic, just frozen in a kind of fearful silence. The tension, thick and unfiltered, clung to every wall of the bar like smoke after a fire. Will Smith sat back down, hands trembling slightly, not from anger now but from realization. The shattered glass, the stunned faces, and JakePaul lying on the floor had suddenly become too real. Jake, still holding his forehead where the glass had struck, tried to sit up. His ego was bruised more than his skin, but that didn't mean the pain wasn't real. One of the bartenders rushed over with a towel and pressed it gently against the cut. Jake winced but didn't say a word. His usual cocky confidence had evaporated the second the crowd's energy shifted, from entertainment to genuine shock. Will swallowed hard. 1,000 thoughts ran through his mind. Why didn't I just walk away? Why did I react? How did I let him get under my skin? He had been in the public eye long enough to know that moments like this don't disappear, they echo, replay, multiply, and become headlines before dawn even breaks. The manager of the bar approached them cautiously, dragging a nervous energy behind him. "Look, guys. I don't want to make this bigger than it already is," he said, voice trembling slightly. "But someone recorded it. Actually, many people did." Will closed his eyes. Of course they did. In the age of phones, a celebrity moment lasts seconds but lives forever. Jake sat up straighter, finally finding his voice. "I wasn't trying to start a war, man," he muttered, still dizzy. "I was just talking. You know how I am." Will looked at him, jaw clenched, regret heavy in his chest. "Talking? Jake, you insulted me, my work, dragged my name, and you wouldn't stop even when I asked you to." Jake let out a small laugh, not mocking, just tired. "That's what I do. I poke. I provoke. Everyone knows that. And you think that excuses it?" Will asked, voice quiet but solid. Jake didn't have an answer. Maybe for the first time, he was realizing that there are lines, even for him. Lines that cameras, fame, and bravado don't erase. The paramedic who had been called by the staff finally arrived. There was no siren, no dramatic entrance, just a firm, calm evaluation of Jake's head. After a quick look, the medic stated, "He's fine. Mild cut. Might bruise. No concussion symptoms." The crowd breathed again. But Will didn't. The relief didn't touch him. He was staring at the floor, lost in the weight of what had just happened. This wasn't a movie scene. No script. No retake. No edit. Just reality, raw and irreversible. Jake looked at Will, softer than before. "You know, you didn't have to go that hard. It was just talk." Will shook his head, voice filled with something deeper, older, worn. "Maybe you don't understand because you're young, because the world gives you permission to provoke it. But sometimes, Jake, words hit harder than fists. And sometimes the person you hit isn't the one you're standing in front of, it's the version of yourself you've been trying to outrun." Jake blinked, absorbing that. The bar had thinned out by now. People left in quiet clusters, whispering, replaying the moment, already imagining the posts they'd upload. Will knew tomorrow's social media would be a battlefield, clips, slow-motion angles, commentary, podcasts analyzing what really happened. Jake moved the towel away and stood up slowly. "I don't hate you," he said. I know it looked like I was trying to get under your skin. But honestly, part of me was just trying to get you to react. To prove you're still human, not some unreachable Hollywood legend. Will met his gaze. I am human. That's the problem. For the first time all night, Jake looked genuinely sorry, not for the wound, but for the chaos he helped create. I'll tell people it was my fault, Jake offered. I'll say I pushed too far. Will almost laughed, not sarcastically, but with disbelief. That doesn't matter. You know how the world works. They'll chop it, edit it, twist it. You'll be the instigator and I'll be the guy who snapped. Jake nodded quietly. Maybe. But at least I'll know the truth. Will stood, slow, composed. Something had shifted in the air, not forgiveness exactly, but clarity. A strange mutual understanding, born from impact and ego and the sharp sting of public vulnerability. He extended his hand. Jake looked at it, hesitant. Then he shook it, firm, respectful, almost grateful. Don't make me regret that handshake, Will whispered. Jake cracked a tired smile. I won't. And hey, maybe next time, let's skip the glass to the head and just talk. Will smirked, a small glow of humor finally returning. Don't give me a reason to throw it. They walked out together, not as friends, not as enemies, but as men who had learned something about each other, and about themselves. Outside, flashes began instantly, cameras, reporters, paparazzi feeding on tension. But this time, neither of them reacted. For once, the silence between them said everything that words, or fists, never could. The aftermath of that night was nothing short of explosive. Within minutes, someone in the bar had posted a shaky but unmistakable video online. The clip showed everything, the buildup, the taunts, Will Smith swinging the glass, JakePaul's calm reaction, and the stunned silence that followed. Within an hour, it had racked up millions of views. By morning, it had become a global story, shared across every social media platform, news outlet, and sports forum. The hashtags were already trending, #RespectJake, #lesson learned, #Will Smith regrets, #Jake vs. Will. Fans and critics alike flooded the comment sections, dissecting every second of the encounter. Some praised Jake for his restraint, calling him the voice of calm in a storm of ego. Others criticized Will, labeling the incident a loss of control and a public lesson in humility. Memes emerged almost instantly, some humorous, some brutal, each one feeding the narrative of the day. The internet had taken over, and the story had grown far larger than anyone in that bar could have imagined. Meanwhile, Will Smith woke up to a tidal wave of notifications. His phone vibrated endlessly, Twitter mentions, Instagram tags, YouTube reactions, and breaking news alerts. The actor sat in silence for a long moment, staring at the screen. The realization hit him like a physical blow, his mistake had gone worldwide. Every media outlet, every trending page, every viral video now painted a picture of him as reckless, impulsive, and unrestrained. Ego, celebrity, and public image, none of it mattered in the face of the raw truth captured on video. JakePaul, on the other hand, faced a different kind of scrutiny. While many mocked or criticized him in previous incidents, this time the response was overwhelmingly supportive. Analysts highlighted his restraint, composure, and emotional intelligence. Commentators emphasized how he had avoided escalation, maintained dignity, and responded to aggression with calm. He was framed as a role model for controlling oneself in high-pressure situations, and fans praised him as the unlikely hero of the encounter. Even the sports world weighed in. Talk shows, podcasts, and sports analysts dissected the situation. Some drew comparisons to famous moments in boxing and MMA where restraint and humility had turned the tide of public opinion. Others focused on celebrity responsibility, questioning how public figures handle confrontation in the age of social media. Articles titled "When Fame Meets Ego: Lessons from JakePaul vs. Will Smith and Celebrity Meltdown or Human Reaction" flooded online platforms, further cementing the story as more than a simple bar fight. The bar itself became a hotspot of attention. Journalists and fans swarmed the location, seeking first-hand accounts. Staff were interviewed repeatedly, describing the chaos, the tension, and the shock that followed the glass incident. Security footage and customer statements were requested by multiple media outlets. Even casual bystanders who recorded the moment were hailed as contributors to the global narrative. The simple location had become the epicenter of worldwide attention. Meanwhile, both parties began managing the fallout carefully. Will issued a public statement apologizing for his behavior. He admitted that his actions were inappropriate, regretted letting emotions control him, and emphasized that he valued respect and self-control. The apology was direct, sincere, and widely shared. Jake, while still receiving praise, also posted a statement encouraging responsible behavior, humility, and patience in the face of provocation. He reminded fans and viewers that responding with anger rarely resolves conflicts, and sometimes restraint can make the stronger impression. Despite their separate statements, the story took on a life of its own. Commentators dissected every word, every gesture, and every expression from both sides. Analysts highlighted psychological and emotional lessons, how ego can cloud judgment, how public scrutiny amplifies mistakes, and how composure can earn respect even in chaotic situations. Fans debated endlessly about what could have been done differently, creating conversation threads that spanned hours, days, and eventually weeks. The incident also sparked cultural conversations. People across the world discussed how social media amplifies public mistakes, how celebrity influence shapes behavior, and how moments of humility can unexpectedly inspire millions. Influencers, educators, and psychologists weighed in, drawing parallels to everyday life, moments where restraint can change outcomes, moments where overreaction can create long-lasting consequences. The discussion transcended celebrity gossip, becoming a case study in emotional intelligence and public responsibility. By the end of the week, the viral video had accumulated tens of millions of views. Clips were shared on news networks, YouTube compilations, Instagram Reels, and TikTok edits. Memes continued to flood platforms, often portraying the contrast between Will's impulsive reaction and Jake's composed response. The narrative was clear: restraint and dignity had won the day, while arrogance and impulsivity had become a cautionary tale. For Jake, the incident reinforced his growing reputation. Fans celebrated not just his physical ability but his emotional maturity. For Will, it was a humbling moment, a reminder that fame does not exempt one from accountability. Both had experienced the public scrutiny firsthand, but in different ways. One had learned the hard lesson of restraint under pressure, the other had demonstrated how even in chaotic moments, measured responses can shape perception and legacy. In the end, the bar incident went down in internet history not because of the chaos itself, but because of what it revealed about human behavior, ego, and respect. Millions of viewers worldwide had witnessed it, discussed it, and drawn lessons from it. The world was talking not about a celebrity fight, they were talking about dignity, control, and how choices in a single moment can echo across the globe. The story had become more than an incident. It had become a lesson. And everyone watching knew one thing for certain: actions speak louder than words, and sometimes, restraint speaks louder than fists. By the next morning, the incident at the bar had taken on a life of its own. Clips of Will Smith's impulsive action and JakePaul's calm, measured response were shared across every social media platform imaginable. Millions of people around the globe were watching, discussing, and dissecting the moment. Memes, reaction videos, and commentary threads proliferated like wildfire, making the story more than just a viral moment. It had become a cultural phenomenon. Hashtags like #RespectJake, #LessonLearned, and #WillSmithRegrets dominated trends worldwide. People weren't just entertained, they were analyzing, debating, and even reflecting on their own behavior. In homes, offices, schools, and gyms, conversations sparked: how do we respond when provoked? How do we balance ego with composure? What does it truly mean to act with dignity under pressure? Will Smith himself faced a wave of criticism and reflection. News outlets highlighted the incident, dissecting every frame, while talk shows replayed the event with slow-motion analysis. Some commentators were harsh, describing his reaction as a lapse in judgment, a reminder that fame does not shield one from accountability. Others offered empathy, noting the stress and provocations that can push even experienced public figures past their limits. Interviews followed, in which Will publicly admitted his misstep, apologizing to Jake, the bar staff, and viewers worldwide. His statement was widely circulated, a rare moment of humility in an era dominated by image management. The bar, which had been an ordinary venue just days earlier, became a landmark of the incident. Journalists revisited the location, interviewing staff and witnesses who described the tension, chaos, and ultimate resolution. Security footage and first-hand accounts offered multiple perspectives, further fueling the narrative. For those who had recorded the event on their phones, viral fame was instantaneous, their clips shared by news organizations and influencers alike. Culturally, the incident sparked a broader conversation. Debates about ego, fame, and public responsibility filled comment sections and discussion panels. Educators and psychologists weighed in, using the story as a case study in emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, and personal accountability. For viewers around the world, the lesson was clear: composure in the face of provocation, and humility in the aftermath of conflict, can define perception more than any physical confrontation. As days passed, the story became a teachable moment. The public celebrated Jake's maturity while acknowledging the human error on Will's part. Both men's legacies were impacted, but in different ways. Will as a reminder that anyone can falter under pressure, and Jake is an example of how calm intelligence can triumph over aggression. In the end, the incident transcended its original setting. It was no longer just a confrontation at a bar, it was a global narrative about dignity, restraint, and accountability. Millions had witnessed it, shared it, and internalized its lessons. Social media was flooded with comments like, "Respect isn't given, it's earned. Control your ego before it controls you. Sometimes silence speaks louder than action." The world's conversation had shifted. No longer was the focus solely on celebrity or fame, it was about character, integrity, and the choices we make when everyone is watching. And as viewers everywhere reflected on what they had seen, one undeniable truth remained. Actions, restraint, and respect can echo farther than any fight, and sometimes a single moment of composure can leave a legacy bigger than fame itself. The incident would be remembered not as a scandal, but as a lesson, a story shared for years to come about humility, accountability, and the power of keeping calm when the world expects chaos.